I read this quote once, and I don't remember who said it. It might have been Robert Heinlein, for crying out loud, science fiction author. That springs to mind, but it probably wasn't. And the proposition was that men tested ideas and that women tested men. And I kind of like that. There's something about that, you know. And now, obviously, it's an overgeneralization, but we also don't know to what degree women test men sheerly through provocation. It's a lot, because like if you want to test someone, you don't have a like little conversation with them. Like you poke the hell out of them and you say, okay, like I'm gonna like go after you and see where your weak spots are. And it seems to me that in this constant protest and use of shame and all of that goes along with this sort of radical movement towards egalitarianism, that there's a tremendous amount of provocation.
So Karen Strawn made a very interesting comment in reference to this video. She's a very bright woman, and I think she had a lot of interesting things to say. For those unfamiliar with pickup artist parlance, a shit test is believed to be a manufactured grievance a woman uses to test the mental competence and confidence of her mate. It is an intentional provocation accompanied by an implicit and subconscious desire that the man put his foot down, set reasonable boundaries, and demonstrate that he will not be bullied, nagged, shamed, or guilted into submission. Its purpose is to confirm for her that he is capable of doing what needs to be done to provide for and protect her and her children. Her thought process is, if he can't stand up to me, how will he be able to deal with the cavemen down the valley who keep us up all night revving their motorcycles, let alone bring down the Macedon or fend off a saber-toothed tiger? According to pickup artists, the worst thing a man can do when his woman is shit-testing him is assume that the grievance is genuine and cave in to her. Despite her seeming to demand that he submit, if he does, she will lose respect for him. And once she loses respect for him, she will believe that she's with a man who's not worthy of her, which in turn makes her angry and resentful of him. She will then escalate the shit tests, each grievance becoming more and more outrageous and irrational, in a desperate bid for him to finally draw a line and say, "This far, no further." I have to admit that the last 50 years of feminism in the West have followed this pattern. So in other words, feminism is a shit test that Western males have all collectively failed.
God, I'm going to say this too, even though I shouldn't. But I don't believe this, but I'm trying to figure it out. You know, I thought it was absolutely comical when 50 Shades of Grey came out. Eh? I just thought that was just so insanely comical that at the same time, there's this massive political demand for like radical equality and say with regards to sexual behavior, and the fastest selling novel the world had ever seen was S&M domination, right? It's like, oh well, we know where the unconscious is going with that one, don't we? And sometimes I think, like, because one of the things that I've really tried to puzzle out, and it's not like I believe this, right? I'm just telling you where the edges of my thinking have been going, is that you have this crazy alliance between the feminists and the radical Islamists that I just do not get. It's like the feminists, it's like why they aren't protesting nonstop about Saudi Arabia is just completely beyond me. Like, I do not understand it in the least. And I wonder too, I just wonder bloody well, this is the Freud in me, is like, is there an attraction, you know, is there an attraction that's emerging among the female radicals for that totalitarian male dominance that they've chased out of the West? And I mean, that's a hell of a thing to think, but after all, I am psychoanalytically minded, and I do think things like that. Because, like, I just can see no rational reason for it. The only other rational reason is that, well, the West needs to fall, and so the enemy of my enemy is...
My friend,
exactly. Now, what is it? I got that wrong, but...
The enemy of my enemy is my friend.
Yes, exactly.
Yeah, and that's why Islamists tend to vote liberal as well.
Yes, well, so that could be the case. But I'm not going to shake my suspicion about this unconscious balancing, because as the demand for egalitarianism and the eradication of masculinity accelerates, there's going to be a longing in the unconscious for the precise opposite of that, right? The more you scream for equality, the more your unconscious is going to admire dominance. And so, well, that's how you think if you're psychoanalytically minded. You know, I'm a great admirer of Freud. He knew a hell of a lot more than people like to think, and so, which is partly why everyone still hates him, even though it's been 100 years since he's, you know, really been around.
So Karen is like a genius. She has more to say about this, and goddamn, like holy crap, she has a lot of good insights. If feminism is about shit testing, at least in part, their strange relationship with Islam is, I think, an overcompensation for the consistent failure of Western men. They have bullied Western men into a state of total weakness and capitulation, and are now subconsciously attracted to the equal but opposite extreme. I don't think they want masculine authoritarianism, but as their own men become increasingly pussy-whipped, that style of authoritarianism becomes more and more attractive by comparison. So basically, Western men are the equivalent of these beta male nice guys. You know, like the beta male nice guys who are always like sucking up to the hot girl they're secretly in love with. You know, whereas Islam is like the authoritarian bad boy with like a criminal record who, you know, all the girls are secretly like, you know, secretly want to have sex with, right? Oh my God, it's so ridiculous.